I'm getting an Unai Emery tattoo on my back. It will be huge, massive angel wings, a Game of Thrones style throne that he'll be sitting on, except instead of swords, it's going to have all his Europa League trophies. That's what the throne is going to be made up of, plus his future Champions League trophy. Bayern are out of the Champions League at the hands of none other but Unai Emery. Look, I gotta bring up my tweet again because I didn't take my own advice. We all need to take this advice, really, as Unai Emery is doing remarkable things. And I am happy to tell you guys that I will have that Unai Emery video out next Wednesday or Thursday, I believe, depending on what happens on next Tuesday, because it's basically a write-off. I'm MIA that day. Every round that passes, Unai Emery cements himself more and more as one of the best knockout round managers. I'm sure some stat guy will come back to me with a list of managers and say, well, he's not even in the top 10 as far as his record goes. But my point being, he had the golden run with Sevilla, then he won with Villarreal. And the question was always, can he do it in the Champions League? Will it translate? No manager has better pedigree in the Europa League. That's a fact. But the Champions League has been tough for him. Perhaps his failings with PSG are further evidence that PSG is just a poison chalice in hindsight. I don't know. But the fact that he has gone through Juventus and Bayern now with this Villarreal side is truly remarkable. They can't sort out their La Liga form, but Unai Emery clearly saves himself for the European nights. Bayern were dominant in most verticals. They were outpossessing Villarreal 68 to 32%. The second half especially saw them dominate in that regard as they were all over Villarreal. Koeman was absolutely having his way with one foot down that Bayern left. I mean, that was brutal to watch. Every single attempted dribble felt like Koeman was going to blow him away and then hit a spicy ball into the box. But Bayern were lacking pimenta, man. That piri-piri. They were milquetoast in the attack for the most part, as most of the work that Rulli had to do were high collects and punches. That's when it looked most dangerous from Bayern. Part of the reason as to why Bayern only had 3 strikes on target was down to just how incredibly well organized this back line is, centered by Raúl Albiol, the senior head, and Pau Torres. They met every cross, and there were many crosses, with 21 attempted and only 5 finding their target. They didn't allow any of Bayern's attackers to have an enjoyable evening, that's for sure. They were blocking shots, etc. For Villarreal, they just had 2 attempts. But that stunning counter late in the game was beautiful to behold. I mean, the way Parejo held up the ball before sliding it into space for Lo Celso to run onto, the way Lo Celso held off defenders before rolling it through perfectly for Moreno, Moreno's long strides pulling him away from the defender, and then putting it on a plate for Chukwueze. The substitute Chukwueze, by the way, it was a stunning counter. Unai Emery getting the substitutions right once again. You'll remember against Juventus, his substitutes combined to win a penalty and ultimately helped take the match away from Juve. And this time, his substitute Chukwueze scores the winning goal away at the Allianz Arena, just as they did at the Allianz Stadium, that's Juve Stadium. I mean, Villarreal to the semifinals of the Champions League for just the second time in their history, and they absolutely deserve it. And that was always going to be how they scored, right? Sit tight, then punish their opponents on the counter. It's just how they operate and how they have excelled in this competition. For all of Bayern's hard work, for all of their time trying to generate opportunities around the box, their expected goals was still just 1.45 from a total of 23 attempts, while Villarreal's was 0.74 from 4 attempts. All of that work from Bayern and Villarreal's defense managed, for the most part, to quell a lot of their attacks, just as they did against Juve, and just as they will try to do against whomever they meet in the semifinals. Benfica, obviously. All hail King Unai. Squawka tweeted out his record in Europe since taking over at Villarreal, and it is something to behold, isn't it? The only losses they have suffered have been against Manchester United in the group stage of the Champions League, as they beat them when it mattered in that Europa League final. Go on, Emery, the father of football. By the way, I'm going to have to do a video on Bayern, aren't I? Because Bayern under Nagelsmann, I'm just not feeling this formation coupled with these players. Especially toward the end of the match like this, when you can't just play with a front 5. You know Villarreal love to counter, and you give them a lane to do so. Davies caught completely out, and I can promise you, these Bayern players would rather just play that 4-2-3-1 that brought them so many trophies in the past. I guess it begs the question of why hire a manager who's always played like this when the team reacted poorly to a change in tactics in the past, but hey, I'll save that for the video. I gotta keep you guys coming back, you know? Man, yesterday was fun. It was a ton of fun, wasn't it? If you weren't having fun watching Villarreal versus Bayern, then certainly Chelsea versus Real Madrid got you going, because that match really had it all. Mason Mount opened the scoring for Chelsea after just 15 minutes, as Real Madrid looked... I won't say they looked poor in the first half, but they didn't look at it. In defense, at least. As per usual, Vinicius caused issues for Tuchel's side down their own right flank. This time they started with the back four after they learned their lesson in the first leg, but Vinicius was causing issues all the same, which is of course a testament to his ridiculous talent. The only thing that was missing in the first half in regard to Real Madrid's attack was that final ball. Roll on the second half, and with the way things were going, it felt like there could only be one outcome: a Chelsea win. Chelsea were buzzing all over Real Madrid, with guys like Antonio Rudiger powering headers past Courtois, and unfortunately for Chelsea, Marcos Alonso had his stunning volley chalked off as the ball came into contact with his hand in the lead up to the goal. With all of the handball rule changes all the time in light of VAR, it can be hard to keep up, which is pretty tough to swallow. That's a really, really difficult one for Marcos Alonso to swallow, isn't it? All the same, the great awakening of Timo Werner continued as Kovacic played him through and he stepped around the entire Real Madrid back line before squeezing the ball in. That would have seen Chelsea through, but Luka Modric, as he said on Twitter, giving up is not an option and playing an ugly pass is not an option for him either. My word, what a ball from Luka Modric with the outside of his boot. The same outside of the boot that scored that stunner against Scotland, you'll remember. He set up Rodrigo, and hey man, that wasn't necessarily an easy finish for the Brazilian. First time volley past a stranded Mendy to extra time. Here we go. And when we think of Real Madrid and we think of players who show up in these big moments, two come to mind. Luquita, who could have sat down on the Bernabeu pitch and played Bejeweled for the rest of the match, and he still would have had a high rating based on that assist alone. And the other player, of course, has to be Karim Benzema. Same script as usual, but with major question marks, which we'll get to in a second. Vinicius run, Vinicius cross, Benzema header, Real Madrid goal, and Real Madrid through to the semi-finals. Before that winning goal, what was happening with Chelsea? Vinicius was basically unchallenged, free down that left flank with no Chelsea right back or cover to be found. Reece James had checked inside to collect and pass back to Thiago. Loftus-Cheek nor Kante moved to cover that flank, and Vinicius was all alone thanks to that. That kind of thing doesn't happen to Chelsea of last season, but Real Madrid caught them in a very strange moment, not only in their season, but in their club history, I think it's fair to say. Now more than ever, Edouard Mendy and Antonio Rudiger would love to have that goal back from Stamford Bridge, in which they gifted Benzema a hat-trick, and in turn, that has proven to burn them quite badly. But you can't say that Real Madrid didn't deserve to go through, or they only went through because of that gift of a goal, because when they make a habit of this kind of thing, when they have players that can pull brilliance out of nowhere, as Modric, Vinicius, and Benzema have, and on top of that, I haven't given much love to David Alaba, but what a signing he has been for them, and he deserves a ton of credit for his performances and that Real Madrid back line that season upon season, seemingly, has to rotate who their center backs will be match by match. What with injuries, suspensions, what have you. To be fair, he's played with Militão quite a bit. Real Madrid, while not at the peak of their powers, are off to another semifinal of this Champions League. And despite not being at the peak of their powers, they make it harder and harder to bet against them, don't they? They always conjure something up. And that's what elite level players will bring you. Elite level players who are still effective in their mid-30s. These guys are crazy. All right, guys, we have two more massive matches today. Benfica away to Liverpool and Man City away to Atleti. Enjoy the matches. See you tomorrow.